also had this question, a minus b plus c. So little bit of progress there. So the we were last class we were asking, so in real numbers, is that a convention or a law? So there is a law because it's physically it works like that with positive numbers. But from negative numbers, when we include negative numbers, it's a convention. And
wait. So when we include negative integers, it is a convention.
A minus.
So when we say, okay, so after having defined the rules of integer addition, okay, so defining, extending the definition of addition from positive integers to negative integers, that part is convention.
Yeah.
That part can be taken as convention, yes. So once that is fixed, then a minus b plus c, would it be a consequence of that, or would it be a new convention?
Okay, once we have defined the negative times negative, positive times positive, that stuff, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, then it's a consequence only. Then it would be a consequence of that, because distributive law has to continue to work the way it is.
Right. Let us come to integer multiplication. Okay. So integer multiplication, we have certain rules, right? Plus into plus is plus, plus into minus is minus. So last time we gave an explanation of why we gave this rules, right? Why we gave this convention, right? What was our explanation?
Yeah. So if we do a times minus 1 plus 1, so that has to turn out to be 0. So
why?
Because minus 1 plus 1 is 0.
Okay.
And the product with 0 has to be 0. So okay, by applying distribution, it should still give 0. And so one will be plus a, the other will be minus a.
Right. You're saying that, I mean, your argument makes it look like it should be a law, right? You're given a proof of why a into minus 1 is minus a. So then where is the choice there?
The choice is that we want distribution to hold in the same way for all kinds of numbers.
Yes. The distributive law, if you want the distributive law to hold, then this is the way you need to define integer multiplication.
Yeah.
Right.
And the choice of leaving that for different kinds of numbers would just make arithmetic too difficult, and hence the choice to keep it in place.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah.
Let me just tell you one more thing. So how it is, so if you see a group, right, an abstract group, you have G and an operation, right? Yeah. Note that this operation does not, like, you don't have a minus.
Right.
You just have a plus, but minus is implicitly defined in this group. Right?
Because of the inverse, additive
inverse. So you don't have a separate operation minus, but it's just the inverse operation, which is giving you 0, right? So if you have a, and if you have if you for every a there is an inverse, which when added it gives us 0. Okay, and then any number plus 0 is a.
Yeah.
Right. Fine. So now when we use minus, so this is an abstract group. This is okay. This is our our world. Let's call it our world numbers. Okay. So here, when I say 5 minus 3, I have it has a meaning associated with it, right? So what is the meaning?
If you have 5, you only take away 3.
Yeah, I have 5, and then I take away 3. 2 is remaining. Right. So one question is, can this be seen as, in the group theoretical sense, as 5 plus minus 3? Let us suppose that. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, if you add 3 to this, you should be left with 5.
Exactly. Right. So basically, what we are trying to, so in this physical problem, what we are expecting is, okay, let's go. This is a physical problem.
Yeah.
So this physical problem can be restated as what should be added to 3 to get 5. Right. So this group theoretic sense, it becomes nothing but 5 plus minus 3. Right. So here you view everything as just like with one operation, addition and multiplication. Other thing is just inverse.
Yeah.
Right.
Just a second, Shiv. 1 second. Yeah.
Right. So now once we have this, right, what's the consequences? So all the conventions that we have taken, right? All the conventions that we have taken and all the rules that follow, it becomes more clearer now when we look at it through this viewpoint. For example, let us just take this A minus B plus C. Okay. So of course, so this in our physical world, when all these 3 are positive numbers, and if A happens to be greater than B plus C, this has a concrete meaning, right?
Yeah.
So now, if you just look at, now we know that this is a group, this forms a group, right? So group theoretically, if you want to simplify this, now let us consider AB. Now this is a group G, and A, B, C are 3 group elements, and I want to find out what is A minus B plus C. Okay, or in group terminology, it will be A plus minus of B plus C.
Right.
So inverse of B plus C, right? Right. Yeah. So how can we simplify this? If you just have the group axioms.
I'm at a loss. I don't know what are the. So basically, we need to use the identity and inverse, those concepts, and simplify this.
Exactly.
Okay.
So every number has an inverse. There is a 0. Okay, which when they add any element remains an associative property, right? So here there is a very widely used technique is, okay, we'll first look at the smallest unit, minus of B plus C, right? Inverse of B plus C.
Right.
Okay, so we expect this to be minus B, inverse of B plus inverse of C, right?
Correct.
Right. So then what will happen if we just add this B plus C and minus of B plus minus of C?
0.
Okay, so here we're using one more rule, that is commutativity.
No.
Okay, can you explain?
We're using, okay, order is changing. So yes, commutative.
Yeah, so this is a group which is also following the commutative property is called an abelian group. Abel is the name of a mathematician who has done who has made a lot of contributions in algebra.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. So B plus C plus minus B plus minus C is 0, right?
Right. So this holds only in certain groups where commutative holds.
Exactly.
Holds.
Exactly. So now, what can you tell about inverse of B plus C?
Minus B plus minus C.
Exactly. Right. So now we can simplify this, right? Directly. So in fact, yeah. So when these people try to keep building structure, keep building rational numbers and real numbers, the group theoretic approach actually was very useful here. I mean, basically, you're just identifying some key properties of numbers and putting it here. Okay. Right. So this was one thing. Yeah. So regarding this group theoretic viewpoint, yeah. So it helps us look at these rules. It is easy to trace back these conventions, whatever conventions we have to the basic. I mean, the consequences. If you don't have this convention, it is easy to trace that, and also the rules of arithmetic, different rules of yeah.
Okay. So when we were doing the fifth power question, and also the one before that, the Fermat's little theorem question.
Yes.
You had said group theory helps to see that in a better way.
Right. Correct. So now, yeah. Again, now this fifth power, right? Okay. So what is the observation there? You take a number and take its fifth power, then
the unit digit is preserved.
The units, okay. So the unit digit of a power 5 is same as unit digit of a.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So now we have different groups Zn, right? Okay. So what would be a good group to choose to study this problem?
10.
Z10. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But because it will be the remainder. So.
Correct. So now, what is the? So now the problem statement is, we need to check for what powers. We need to check. We need to find the powers which preserve the unit digit.
Right.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So how do we formulate this problem now? So now Z10 is a, I mean, it has multiplication, right? It has multiplication, addition, everything.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But keep it in, yeah, keep it aside for now. So now we have a problem there. See if you can convert that into this Z10.
So A multiplied with itself how many times will result in A itself and Z10?
Exactly, right? So now you see the equivalence, right?
Yeah.
So basically, the actual problem is, you take a number, no matter how many digits it has, I take the pth power and the unit digit is unchanged.
Yeah.
Right. So this is the original problem. Now you're converting that into in Z10. In Z10, for what P is x power P, A power P equal to A.
Yeah.
Right. So are they both equal? Are you convinced about that?
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
It is equivalent.
Okay. Fine. Right. So now how do we answer this? Okay. Right. So now let us just play with it for some time. So now we will take power 3. We will see what happens. Okay. So A cube. Okay. We will see if there is any A. We will see if there is any A for which A cube is equal to A. Right.
Okay.
Now one way, yeah. How do we find it? What can we do to find it?
Trial and error.
Trial and error, right? Yes, the good old trial and error. But we will see we will see now a cube is equal to a, right? We can also write it
Yeah.
as a cube minus a is equal to 0. Can we write this?
Yes.
Or actually in group theoretic sense, it should be a cube plus minus of a is 0.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, does this suggest you anything? So, Shravan, long back we were looking at powers which preserve the unit digit.
Can you give an example? Oh yeah,
like,
yeah. Okay, I remember. Yeah.
5. So the last digit is preserved, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So now from 1 to 10, we are looking at numbers for which when I cube it, the unit digit is preserved. Okay.
Okay.
So this can be found out by trial and error, but we are seeing how we can use algebra to find this. Can algebra be used to make this task easier? We are looking at Zn.
So last time we were talking about, can there be multiple identity elements?
Correct.
Correct.
So
in case of this, so in Z10, for example. Okay.
So what are the elements of Z10?
0 to 9.
0 to 9, yes. Yeah, so even in Zn, it's not clear if the identity element is unique.
Yeah.
Right? Correct. So how do we establish that?
So for example, 6 times 6 is still 6. So is 6 also considered an identity element for?
No, it should be for all elements. For all elements.
The elements. Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So in Z10, are there other identity element?
No, it will not work with all elements. So
it will not work with all elements. Okay, right.
Yeah,
right.
But if we have x times a equal to a, we can't just say that x is the identity. That we cannot tell.
Exactly. We cannot say. But in general, in a general ring structure, so ring basically we have multiplication, distribution, but not all the elements have inverse.
Right.
Not all the elements have inverse.
Yeah.
Okay. In such a structure, interestingly, we can answer this question. So for Z10, for the specific Z10, by looking at the different numbers, you're able to say, right, whether one is clearly an identity element. I multiply anything with 1 and I get 1.
If P is multiple of 5, I think this holds.
Correct. Multiple of 5.
5 and multiple of 5.
So can you check for 10? 10.
Okay.
So okay, yeah. So in fact, it is possible to answer this question for a much general structure. So now we have this. So we have lots of rings, right? We have seen lots of examples of rings like polynomials, matrices, different Zn's. All of these, we are not sure which is field and which is not a field, but all of these are coming under ring structure, right? So we can for such a large class with these axioms we can answer this question. That's an interesting thing about the uniqueness of identity element.
Yeah, for all where P is multiple of 5, it will work.
But 2 power 10, what is 2 power 10? 1024, right? The last digit is 4 here.
Yeah, sorry. P is equal to 5n plus 4.
5n plus 4? Can you check with 14? Okay, so one more thing which you have mentioned now. So you have something like A into B is equal to A, right? So what can you tell about B? Will B always be 1?
We
Right?
can't say that.
We can't say that, right? But
Yeah.
but we can say what we can say is when we have this let me call it an equation. This is also an equation, right? AB is equal to A is an equation, right?
Yeah.
Okay, xy equal to x. Now it looks like an equation. Yes. So when xy equal to x, when will this imply that y is the identity element, or in our case 1? Can you tell anything about it? Can we make any characterization?
Only if we know external, I mean, outside this question, if we know that there's only one identity, then only we can say.
Right. But in the ring, okay, fine. There is something more you can say here. Okay, suppose x has an inverse, multiplicative inverse. Okay, what does that tell?
Multiplicative inverse existing or not?
How does it matter?
I think it does not matter. I mean, if there can be multiple identities, then the inverse could be with respect to any one of the identities.
Right. If there are multiple identities, then
There could be multiple inverses also. What's to stop?
At least in Zn, okay, in any Zn, we can show that there's a unique identity that is one itself. There is no other identity. Okay, so what is an algebraic method for this?
Algebraic method to show that there is only one identity.
One identity for any Zn. All right, fine. So let there be multiple identities, and the inverse could be with one of the identities, right? It's okay, but the inverse exists, right? So we'll take this equation xy equal to x. Okay. Now, since it has a ring structure, I can multiply x inverse on both sides. Right? Again, so here it's very easy to say multiply x inverse on both sides. So this comes naturally from the way we look at the equations, right? But analogously, if you see the meaning of multiplication here, it is basically modulo n multiplication, modulo n addition, right? And which we have already established that it follows associativity, and other things, right? Or have we really checked? I don't know, but yeah, we believe that Zn has a ring structure, right? So now what's the consequence? X inverse into x is an identity element,
right?
Okay, into y. This x inverse x is some other identity element.
Okay, right.
We'll call it E1 and E2. Now E1 into y should be y. That is the definition of identity, right? Whatever you multiply with identity element, the number.
Correct.
So basically, y is one of the identity elements.
Okay.
So when x has an inverse, okay, then things become better.
Okay.
We can surely say that y has to be one of the identity elements. Right. So now you see we are able to make use of those axioms, right? Which looks like some trivial things.
Yeah. So this still doesn't help me with Z10 because 10 is composite. So multiplicative inverse will not exist for all the elements.
For all the elements, correct. For all the elements, it's not existing, right? At least for some elements, it's existing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So if it exists for all the elements, if it is a field.
Yeah.
So we call it a field, right?
Yeah.
But if it exists for all the elements, then what can we say?
Then we could have done some work like so then xy equal to x would imply y is 1.
Correct. Y is 1. Again, we do not know if identity is unique, right?
No, we just showed that okay. Oh, we still don't know that it's unique. Okay, right. Yeah. Hmm. Totally at a loss. I don't know how to proceed. I'm just sitting with empty paper.
Right. That is good. So there are so many directions that you can go. One thing is, can you see, is there any pattern for numbers for which inverses exist in Z10? Okay, that is one thing.
Okay.
But
Okay.
yeah, this is one thing which you can check. But there is another thing that I want to show you again. This power of the structure. So we have this a cube minus a equal to 0, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So now, basically, now the small problem that we are trying to attack is for what all a.
Yeah. A
Is a
cube
cube equal to a
will be A.
in Z10.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. Of course, we can always do it by trial and error, but we will see the algebraic root. Yeah. So can we write this equation? Now, this is an equation, right? So can we write this as a into a square minus 1 equal to 0? Now we are still in Z10.
Yes, we can write it.
How are you saying that?
Distributive law will hold.
Correct.
So if we expand this, it will give a cube minus a.
Exactly. Yeah. So under modulo n arithmetic, will distributive law hold or not? Something which you should check. If it holds,
holds, then this is allowed.
A into a square minus 1 equal to 0, right? So now, can we say that a is 0 or a square minus 1 is 0? Have you ever come across any ring structures where a b equal to 0 and neither of them are 0? Matrices.
Oh, right.
Remember, we came across an example.
Yeah.
Two matrices.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I
So
remember.
that is not the case here, right? For example, 2 into 5 is 0 in Z10. Right. 5 into 4 is 0.
Yeah.
Right. So can we simplify this equation further? This one. Can we further factorize it?
So we can write that as a plus 1 into a minus 1. So it becomes.
Can we?
By expansion, it works. So.
By expansion, it works. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So a square minus 1 is equal to a plus 1 into a minus 1 is true, not just for real numbers, but for dash.
Zn also.
But
for all fields. All rings.
For all rings. Right. So it covers polynomials, matrices, everything comes under this. Right. So you see, right, the power of that abstraction of the few axioms, how things are changed. Of course, it is good that you brought this example. Yeah, with this concrete problem in mind, it is much more nice. Yeah. A into a plus 1 into a minus 1 is 0, or I can rewrite it as a minus 1 into a plus 1 is 0. Right. Fine. Now we cannot tell anything about it. We cannot tell if they are 0 or not. But now we will, at this point, let us convert this equation into a statement, to a real number statement, an integer statement. If you convert that, how would the statement change?
The product of 3 consecutive numbers is a multiple of 10.
Super. Is a multiple of 10, right?
So one of them has to be 5 and one of them has to be even.
Exactly. And we have possibilities from 0, 1 till 9, right?
Right.
So what has, so it could be
4, 5, 6 is the only option.
Huh?
No, 5, 6. Okay.
4,
so
5,
5
6,
will have to be there.
9, 0, 1.
Correct. 5 has to be there, right? Exactly. 5 has to be there. Then
9, 0, 1 also.
9, 0, 1. Beautiful. So 9, 0, 1. Okay, so when a is 0, correct. Very nice. 9, 0, 1, 0, 1, 2,
0, 1, 2, and 8, 9, 0.
Mm.
Right, 8, 9, 0 is also right. Right. Oh, this I know consider down. Right. Correct. 4, 5, 6. Right. Any more?
3, 4, 5, 5, 6, 7.
3, 4, 5. Yeah.
You have a whole bunch of 3, 4, 5. Then 4, 5, 6, 5, 6, 7. Right? So for all these numbers, what is the value of A? For this case, what is the value of A? We have A minus 1 into A into A plus 1, right? So this is A minus 1. This is A. This is A plus 1. So the center column is A basically. Right. So this is 0. We know, yeah, it's clear that 0 cube is 0. 1, again, this no surprise here, but it is showing some extra things. 9.
Yeah.
Right? 9 cube has the last digit as 9. 4 cube has the last digit as 4. 5 cube and 6 cube.
Right.
Basically, all the number except a few. So if you had done the trial and error, you could have got the answer much easier. But yeah, you see, right? So you see the elegance of this approach, right?
Yeah.
Right. So once we start studying more about matrices and polynomials, right, then the real power of this algebraic approach will be more evident.
Okay.
So fine. So we have answered this question, right? Yeah. So now similarly, now we can also solve this question in Z10 for what P is A power P equal to A for all A, right? If you take this algebraic route, you will have a much more elegant solution. There are some really nice, wonderful puzzles where again this group theory, this way of this algebraic approach will help us to visualize the solution more easily.